Hey everybody, welcome back to Simply Cerisa. Today I'm going to give you 8 tidbits of information that I didn't know until we had to go gluten-free in our family. So if you're interested in this type of stuff, just keep watching. So I'm gonna save the update for the end. So if you're not interested in that, you can just turn it off after you hear the 8 things that we learned. But if you are and you wanna kind of see what I'm up to right now and why, then I'll talk about that at the end. But let's get to it. The first thing I learned is that going gluten-free will literally double your grocery bill. You heard what I said correctly, double. So our grocery bill pre-gluten-free was $450. So you can sort of do the math on about what we have to spend per month to eat gluten-free. Now, the caveat is that is if you just try to completely swap out everything that you used to eat for everything in its gluten-free form, which means a lot of pre-packaged foods. So you can get your grocery budget down, but you have to change how you eat. Now, let me just give you a quick example on why things get doubled. Your typical 5-pound bag of flour, non-organic, maybe store brand, you can get as cheap as $1.39. You can even purchase a 5-pound bag of organic flour for about $4.99. This right here is what we currently purchase. It is 2 pounds and 12 ounces, and the cheapest I have found this is $6.99. So I'm paying probably like quadruple the price for about half the product. A little bit scary. The second thing that I discovered was the concept of a compromised kitchen. What happens is if you have a compromised kitchen, then you're going to have, say, a bag of regular bread, and one family comes in and they get the bread, they lay it out on top of the counter so there is wheat spreading on the counter. Then they get a knife and they get some mayonnaise, they spread it on there, and they happen to double dip to get more mayonnaise. Well, now you have basically contaminated your whole jar of mayonnaise with wheat. This can happen with a lot of other things. For example, butter, containers of margarine, even your toaster, and again, just the normal like cooktops and counters of your kitchen. So it's a really difficult concept, and you just have to take it family by family and with your allergy or you know, how strict you have to be with being compromised, and that can get really scary really fast. The third thing I learned about having to go gluten-free is that it's not just in your kitchen. You have to think about items such as toothpaste, skincare, lotions, shampoos, you name it. So you basically have to take your gluten-free concepts and you have to apply them in your beauty room and in your bathroom as well. Now, you might say, well, what does that have to do with anything? Well, obvious things like toothpaste, they go directly into someone's mouth. If they're not gluten-free, then of course, then things have been contaminated. But as far as facial products, for example, say one of like your spouse or your significant other needs to be gluten-free, and you're putting on a face lotion or body lotion or a lipstick that is not gluten-free, and you get close or you give them a big fat kiss, well, there you go. Then there's gluten transferred. So it has to go in the bathroom and in the rest of your home, as well as just not just your kitchen. For this fourth thing that I learned, I actually have to read my notes because these words are crazy and there's a lot of them, and this is not an exhaustive list. Gluten does not just mean the word wheat. You have to learn how to read labels, and when all else fails, have your phone nearby, especially in the grocery store, so that you can Google a word just in case it might mean gluten. Let me give you a few examples. Brewer's yeast, kamut, I might be saying that wrong. Malt, malt flour, matzo, malt vinegar, seitan, semolina, pho, which is spelled F-U, sorry, no pun intended there, atta, farina, barley, bulgur, durum, farro, gram flour, spelt, dinkel, I'm not making this stuff up, triticale, I can't even say that one right, einkorn, emmer. There's over 22 words that I just listed, and there are others. And so you have to understand what you're reading on your labels, and you always have to have a backup just in case. The fifth thing that I learned is that even though an item may not contain gluten in itself, a lot of times companies do not, or even restaurants do not, say that things are gluten-free because the non-gluten item may be contaminated by, say, a conveyor belt or in the factory. Or for example, say you go to a bakery and they are baking and they have a gluten-free cake. The problem is if they do a lot of baking and they also have gluten flour, regular wheat flour in their kitchen, then that actually gets in the air. It's very fine and the particles get all over the place. So there's going to be cross-contamination. And so that's why oftentimes you might see a product and it doesn't outright say that it has wheat or any of these other gluten products in it, but it still cannot be labeled as gluten-free because of where it's processed. The sixth thing I found out when you go gluten-free is you cannot trust restaurants. And believe me, I love restaurants. Half of my videos are about food and restaurants, but that is, in quite all honesty, why I do a lot fewer restaurant reviews at this point right now, is because since we've had to go gluten-free, we go into a restaurant, they may claim to have a gluten-free menu, but they are minimal at best, and they can't really guarantee things either because of the kitchen and the cross-contamination factor. Now, I'm not mad at that. There's really nothing you can do about that. They're doing their best. They're busy, they're cooks, but things get cross-contaminated with so fast, including salads, because they're using the same tongs or they're grabbing with the same plastic bagged hands that they, have to grab product with really quickly. And really, there's only, in all of the restaurants we've been in since we've had to go gluten-free, I can honestly say there's only 4 that have actually said we can guarantee that this is gluten-free. And they are very minimal in their menu selection and menu items. I've actually had 2 that actually stopped what they were doing, cleaned a whole prep area, like literally cordoned it off, changed gloves, and then had to make a special sandwich for us. It totally warmed our hearts, but it just shows that it's very hard for a restaurant to actually have to do that. And side note, most of the waiters, waitresses, they're doing their best, but oftentimes don't know what they're doing. We have ordered from a gluten-free menu. We've been told that everything's gluten-free, and we've actually said, don't put this, this, and this on the food just in case. And they say, oh, sure. And they literally bring the food and it's covered in something that has been deep fried and it has wheat flour on it, and they put it right on top of the gluten-free food. So it's just almost impossible to eat out and not suffer the consequences of getting gluten contaminated. The 7th thing that we learned when we had to go gluten-free as a family is, unfortunately, parties, family get-togethers, they can kind of suck sometimes. And I don't mean it for the social aspect at all. I mean it strictly from the meal planning and the food aspect of it. Many people, and we've had so many family members and friends that have tried considerably to take into account our dietary needs. But again, just like a restaurant, you can't really expect everyone to completely understand where you're coming from, and you can't expect them to create an entire gluten-free menu when you're just one person of a party of, say, 12 or 15 or 20. So oftentimes we end up having to pre-plan, and we have to bring our own food items. So that requires us to oftentimes, if we know them well enough, text the people who are planning the party and ask them what they're serving. And then based on that, we most often have to order some takeout or pre-prepare a dish for the people with gluten needs in our family, and we have to take it with us. And then, for example, if it's a birthday party or something where we know there's going to be a cake or a celebration, then we often have to stop and go buy dedicated gluten-free, like say cupcakes or ice cream or another type of dessert to offer as a substitute, so that the people who need to eat gluten-free in our family don't feel left out. So get ready to pack your own food. the eighth thing that we learned is that this may seem a little bit obvious, but it is not a choice for everyone. Now, something like going gluten-free, I realize is that it's a dietary choice that a lot of people have made for a lot of really good reasons, but it is also tied to celiac disease, and it is tied to gluten intolerances and allergies, and they vary at different degrees, and some of them can be like borderline life-threatening. So you have to take it seriously. If someone says that they are going gluten-free, then if you know them well enough, you may probably ask them, hey, is this just a choice, or is this an actual, like, something that, you know, I need to take extremely seriously? And that can get a little bit dicey of a conversation, and you know, many people are sensitive to that, and they don't want to have to explain themselves all the time. So what I have learned to do is basically just take it as serious. Don't just go, oh, they just chose to do that, and serve whatever you want anyway. I try to be as sensitive as possible, and just try to realize that it's not an easy choice. Even if it is just for a minor allergy, it's still not an easy choice. And the issue with gluten is that you don't know how your body's going to react to it, and it could be range from mild symptoms to extremely severe symptoms, and they can last days and days, and even longer for some people. So my suggestion, I guess you could say, or advice is, if you find out that somebody is gluten-free, just be sensitive to it, and then you know, try your hardest to make sure that they are aware if you have gluten items around them, just to say, hey, you know, I just want to make sure that you're safe, so here, you know, this is probably something that we should avoid, or you know, have maybe in my case, it's a little bit better to be awkward and try than to just not say anything at all and potentially get somebody sick. Okay, so that does it for the 8 things that we learned as a family having to go gluten-free this year. And if you stuck around and you wanted to know about a little bit of my channel update, this is it. Thanks for hanging out. I just wanted to make sure that everyone understood that as I started my channel over a year ago, you know, many times I was talking about restaurant items, and still to this day, I love to talk about food things, and we do try, some of us that can in our family do try non-gluten-free items. And so from time to time, you may see me talk about something, then you're like, that's not gluten-free, what's going on here? So just a quick explanation. One person was diagnosed with celiac in our home, and we have made the conscious choice as a family to sometimes allow the other people in the family to have food that has gluten and wheat in it, because we are, as our own family, able to do that from time to time, and without compromising the individual that has celiac. But it is difficult. We do have a compromised kitchen. We have obviously figured out that restaurants are not quite as trustworthy, and so I have backed off quite a bit on going to a lot of restaurants. And yeah, I just wanted to make sure everyone understood that that's kind of why all of a sudden my videos started containing gluten-free items, gluten-free grocery hauls, and they're starting to shift in that term of videos that I make now versus videos that I used to make. You know, it's just like everything else, life evolves and our family needs evolve, and so my videos had to do that too. So thank you for your understanding, and I appreciate it. And again, I make all kinds of different content. It's not all about gluten-free food. And the foods that we do try and the restaurants we do try, I have kind of geared those a little bit more towards my YouTube and my Facebook channels, which is also simply Cerisa. And if I do, you know, happen to find a great bakery or something fun, then oftentimes I post there. So if you're interested in like a lot of the food content that I do post, oftentimes it's there on my social media site, and it doesn't have quite so much of an impact on my YouTube channel anymore. Now it's a little bit more geared toward lifestyle, product reviews, and of course gluten-free shopping hauls and things. So thank you for understanding. Thank you for sticking around. I'm so glad that you're here. And if you have not subscribed or hit like on this video yet, please make sure you do so before you leave, and check out the rest of my videos in my channel. I have lots of stuff to watch. So until next time, have a great day.